Remember when things felt exciting? A new game, a weekend trip, a message from someone you couldn't stop thinking about. Even ordinary moments felt different. They felt alive. They stayed with you. They meant something. Now, you finally get what you wanted. And almost instantly, the feeling is gone. A new purchase, a new achievement, a new experience. For a moment, there's excitement, a spark, a rush, then silence. And after a while, you start looking for the next thing, and the next, and the next, hoping the feeling will come back. Most people think they know why. They blame stress, getting older, more responsibility, burnout, life becoming predictable. But what if all of those explanations miss the real problem? What if the reason nothing feels exciting anymore has very little to do with happiness? Because something else may be happening, something quieter, something deeper, something most people never notice. And by the end of this video, you may see your own life differently, because the problem may not be that life has become less exciting. The problem may be that you've slowly lost the ability to feel excitement itself. Not all at once, not dramatically, but gradually, over years, one small habit at a time. And if that's true, then the consequences are much bigger than boredom, much bigger than motivation, much bigger than feeling stuck. Because when excitement disappears, curiosity begins to fade, ambition begins to fade, meaning begins to fade. And eventually, you stop chasing experiences. You start chasing stimulation without realizing there's a difference. And that difference may explain why so many people have everything they once wanted, yet still feel strangely empty. So the real question isn't why life feels less exciting. The real question is, what happened to the part of you that used to feel alive? Most people spend years chasing a feeling they can't quite name, a feeling they assume is somewhere ahead of them, waiting behind the next achievement, the next purchase, the next milestone. So they keep moving, keep chasing, keep searching for more money, more success, more experiences, more freedom. And yet, for many people, the feeling never arrives. Or, if it does, it never stays. But here's a strange question, one that most people never stop to ask. What if the thing you're searching for isn't actually missing? What if your ability to experience it is? Think about childhood. A bicycle could make your entire month, not because it was extraordinary, but because it felt extraordinary. A movie could stay in your mind for weeks, scenes replaying long after it ended. A single afternoon with friends could become a memory you carried for years, maybe even decades. Back then, life seemed richer, more vivid, more alive. But was the world really better? Probably not. The difference wasn't the world, the difference was you. Your sensitivity was different, your attention was different, your relationship with experience was different. And that changes everything, because excitement isn't something the world gives you. It isn't hidden inside possessions, or achievements, or destinations. Excitement is created somewhere else, in the space between the world and your mind, in the way your brain responds to what it encounters. And over time, that relationship can change, slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. Most people never notice it happening. Not at first. Life keeps moving. Responsibilities grow. Days become routines. Years pass. Then one day, usually in a moment of unexpected honesty, they realize something uncomfortable. The things that once felt exciting don't feel the same anymore. The highs don't feel as high. The moments don't last as long. The spark fades faster. And without fully understanding why, life begins to feel flatter than it used to. Maybe the truth is even harder to accept. You don't actually miss the excitement. You miss the person you were when excitement came naturally. The version of you that could lose track of time. The version of you that could be fascinated by simple things. A conversation, a new idea, a quiet adventure, a possibility. Back then, it didn't take much. Life felt larger, not because the world was different, because you were. And perhaps that's what hurts the most. Not the loss of excitement itself, but the feeling that somewhere along the way, the person who could still feel it slowly disappeared. Most people misunderstand dopamine. They think it creates pleasure, a feeling of reward, a moment of satisfaction. But that's not quite right. Dopamine is something else, something quieter, more subtle. It's anticipation, not pleasure. A signal, a whisper in the brain that says, pay attention, something important might be coming. For thousands of years, this system worked perfectly because the world was slow and uncertain and limited. Novelty was rare, rewards were not guaranteed, discovery required effort. So the brain stayed alert, curious, engaged, alive. Attention had value, curiosity had weight. Even waiting meant something. Then something changed. Not gradually, but completely. For the first time in human history, novelty became infinite. Information became infinite. Entertainment became infinite. Choice became infinite. And the brain was not ready for it. It had evolved for scarcity, not abundance. At first, this new world feels powerful, almost exciting. Everything is available. Everything is immediate. Everything is within reach. There is always something new, always something next, always something waiting. But hidden inside this convenience is a cost. A cost most people don't notice at first because it doesn't feel like loss, not immediately. It feels like stimulation. It feels like access. It feels like control. But slowly, something begins to shift. And it isn't distraction. It goes deeper than that. Much deeper. It's the quiet erosion of what used to make things feel meaningful. Stop for a moment. Just pause. Think back to the last time something truly excited you. Not mildly, not casually, but genuinely. The kind of feeling that pulls you forward, that wakes something up inside you. Now ask yourself something honest. How long did it last? A week? A day? An hour? Or did it fade before you even had the chance to feel it fully? That quiet disappearance, that fast collapse of emotion. It's strange when you notice it, almost unsettling, because it doesn't feel like loss. It feels like speed, like something slipping through your fingers before you can even react. Hold that answer. Just keep it with you for a moment. Don't explain it yet. Don't judge it. Just notice it, because what you just remembered isn't random. And in a moment, we're going to understand why it happens. Not in theory, but in a way that quietly changes how you see everything after this. Imagine something simple. You receive $100. It feels good, immediate, clear, real. Now imagine something else. $100 every day. At first, it still feels exciting, even powerful, but something begins to shift slowly, without warning. The excitement fades, not because the money changed, but because you changed. Your baseline moved. And this is where something important begins. Adaptation, one of the strongest forces in human psychology, and also one of the quietest, because you don't notice it happening. You only notice the result. Novelty loses its edge, moments lose their weight, experiences lose their impact. One video used to be enough, now it isn't. One becomes 10, 10 becomes endless. One achievement used to feel meaningful, Now it dissolves almost instantly. One notification used to matter. Now it barely registers. One dream used to feel alive. Now it becomes just another checkpoint, something to move past. The rewards don't stop, they often increase, but the emotional response shrinks. And that's where the distortion begins, because most people misread the signal. They think something outside has changed. They think life became dull, ordinary, predictable. But life isn't the variable. They are. And adaptation is quietly rewriting everything they feel, without them ever noticing it happen. A child receives a bicycle for Christmas, and something changes instantly. It isn't just an object, it becomes a world. He talks about it for months. He thinks about it before sleeping. He wakes up, already excited to ride it. Every day feels new. Every ride feels different. Every street feels like discovery. His imagination fills the gaps, turning something simple into something endless. Now shift forward. An adult. Years later. Different life. Different expectations. He finally buys the car he's wanted for a decade. That moment should feel enormous. It should last. It should stay. And for a brief time, it does. But then something quiet happens. 3 days later, he's already looking at something else. Reviews, upgrades, comparisons. Not because the car is bad, not because the dream was wrong, but because the feeling has already shifted. The mind has moved on. The reward became larger, but the excitement became smaller. And most people never question that shift. They assume it's maturity, responsibility, real life. But there's something else happening underneath, something more mechanical, more invisible, adaptation. The system adjusting itself until nothing feels as sharp as it once did. Not because life lost its value, but because the brain stopped responding the same way it used to. The internet didn't make life boring. It did something else. Something quieter, something harder to notice. It made boredom almost impossible. And at first, that sounds like a good thing. No empty moments, no waiting, no stillness. Just constant input, constant movement, constant noise. But that's exactly where the problem begins. Because boredom was never just emptiness. It had a purpose, a function, a reset. A moment where everything slowed down, where the mind stopped consuming and started recovering. Attention rebuilt itself there, quietly, naturally. Curiosity returned, without force, without effort. Creativity had space to appear. Not because you tried, but because nothing was competing for your attention. Now that space is rare, almost gone. Every pause is filled. Every silence is replaced. Every gap is closed instantly. And something important disappears with it. Not loudly, not suddenly, but gradually. The mind loses its resting place. And when it never rests, it forgets how to begin again. Remember the hidden cost we mentioned earlier. Here it is. The real danger isn't overstimulation. It's something quieter, more subtle, more difficult to notice. Desensitization, the slow loss of sensitivity. Because when the brain is exposed to constant novelty, something begins to shift. Not all at once, but gradually. Ordinary experiences start to feel different. A conversation feels slower. Reading feels harder. Practice feels boring. Progress feels invisible. Patience starts to feel uncomfortable, almost painful. But none of these things actually changed. They still have value, the same value they always had. What changed was the brain's expectation. It learned to anticipate more stimulation, more intensity, more speed. more than reality can naturally give. And this is where people get trapped. Not in the world, but in perception. Because they don't notice the shift. They don't see the adjustment happening. So they assume something external is wrong. Life feels dull, slow, unrewarding, and they blame life for it. When in reality, it's the brain that changed the rules, quietly, without permission, without awareness. The greatest luxury in modern life isn't wealth. It isn't success. It isn't status. It isn't possessions. It's something quieter, almost invisible. The ability to enjoy ordinary things. A simple meal, a quiet walk, a normal conversation, a moment with no purpose other than being there. It sounds simple, almost too simple. But for many people, it's no longer natural because the mind gets used to more stimulation, more speed, more intensity, until ordinary life starts to feel like less exciting, less rewarding, less enough. And slowly, without anyone noticing, the small things stop landing, not because they changed, but because perception did. The world is still here, still simple, still quiet, still present, but the ability to feel it has been diluted. And that's why this kind of luxury matters, not because it's rare in the world, but because it's rare in the mind. The ability to slow down enough to actually feel what's already here, without needing more, without chasing the next thing. Just being here, fully, quietly, present. This is where it becomes personal, not theoretical, not abstract, personal. Relationships start to feel different, less exciting, less alive. Goals lose their weight, their pull, their meaning. Hobbies feel lighter, faster, shorter. Success itself doesn't hit the same way anymore. But none of these things actually changed. They didn't become worse. They didn't lose value. Something else shifted, quietly, inside you. Your baseline moved. And that changes everything, because you don't enjoy less, because life became worse. You enjoy less because your brain adapted to more stimulation, more novelty, more intensity, until what used to feel enough no longer does. And that single shift explains something far bigger than most people realize. Modern dissatisfaction, restlessness, emptiness, the constant sense that something is missing. And here's the unsettling part. Many people spend years trying to improve their lives, to upgrade everything around them, their work, their body, their relationships, their environment. But the real change already happened. Inside perception, inside expectation, inside the way reality is being processed. So the question becomes simple, almost uncomfortable. What if nothing is wrong with your life? What if the problem is the lens you're seeing it through? But there's something deeper, something most people never see coming. After enough stimulation, something shifts, quietly, irreversibly. You don't just change what excites you, you change who you become. Because attention is not passive, it's not neutral. Attention shapes identity. What you return to again and again slowly becomes you. Whatever repeatedly captures your attention begins to shape your desires, your habits, your priorities, your direction, your future. Most people believe they are managing time, protecting hours, organizing days. But the real question is different. It's whether they are protecting their attention. Because attention is not just focus. It is formation. It is construction. It is the quiet process of becoming. What you consistently attend to eventually becomes the structure of your life. And that transformation is so gradual, most people never notice it happening. Not while it's happening. Only after. When things feel different. When they feel further away from who they used to be. And the loss of excitement that we talked about earlier was only the beginning. Just the first signal, the first symptom of something much deeper changing underneath. What if your loss of excitement isn't the problem? What if it's something else, something quieter, more unsettling? What if it's evidence that something deeper has already changed? Not around you, but inside you. Because changes like this rarely announce themselves. They don't feel dramatic. They don't feel obvious. They feel like small shifts, small delays, small differences in how things land. Until one day, you notice the world doesn't feel the same anymore. But by then, it's already happened. And the question isn't what you lost. It's what changed without you ever noticing it begin. And now, we reach the final paradox. The more stimulation you consume, the less you are able to feel it. The more excitement you chase, the harder it becomes to experience. The more rewards you demand, the weaker they begin to feel. At first glance, it doesn't make sense. It feels like something is missing, something external. But it isn't. Most people aren't addicted to pleasure. They're addicted to escaping, the absence of it. And that changes everything, because the goal is no longer enjoyment. It becomes relief, a brief interruption of emptiness. And the next reward never solves that emptiness. It only resets the cycle, temporarily. Then it returns, stronger than before. The system feeds itself, quietly, repeatedly, almost invisibly. More input, less feeling, more chasing, less satisfaction, until eventually, even excitement itself becomes harder to access. Not gone, just out of reach. Maybe the answer isn't finding more excitement. Maybe it was never about more, not a bigger reward, not a bigger achievement, not a bigger experience. Maybe the goal was never to increase stimulation. Maybe the goal was to recover sensitivity, because something important still exists. Meaning still exists. Wonder still exists. Curiosity still exists. Connection still exists. But they don't announce themselves. They don't demand you notice them. They don't scream. They whisper quietly. And in a world filled with noise, that becomes the problem. Not their absence, but your ability to hear them. Because maybe the tragedy of modern life isn't that excitement disappeared. Maybe it's that everything became so loud that subtle things stopped reaching us. So before asking, how do I make life exciting again? Try asking something different, something more honest. Have I become too overstimulated to notice what was already exciting? Because the answer to that question might explain far more than you expect. Not just about boredom, not just about motivation, but about perception itself. And in the next video, we'll go deeper into why your attention is disappearing. Because once attention changes, everything else follows.